Welcome to Curious Chimps Podcast. I'm your co-host Nathaniel Pearl.
And I'm Sam Sheva.
And welcome.
We here at Curious Chimps are law-abiding citizens. We do not endorse anything illegal. And anything we discuss is for entertainment and not information purposes. We are not experts, and nor do we claim to be. So please, consult doctors, do your research, read the label, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps.
The heroic dose is not for heroes, it's for scholars. Ballers, holler dollars, wallers and callers, the can't handle it's, took too muchers, the losing my shits, the I'm gonna fallers. The coffee crashing went to towners, the Mary Jane brained grounders. The magic mushroom merry-go-rounders. The K-hole moles, the super dopamine downers. Hear me now, in your foggy whatever of a consciousness. You're okay. You're going to be okay. Not all the curious cats have to die. And even though you're safe, it's okay if you want to cry. You actually walk past all this stuff every day. And though you don't really leave, you couldn't even really stay if you tried. Click, 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 roller coaster ride. Die inside, seek and hide, child's play, playful side, finally enjoy the ride, rinse, repeat, 50 feet, off the ground, safe and sound, and to the side. Finger in the power socket, drifting off in God's soft pocket, swirling and sweating in the sound oceans and time rockets.
Boom. Hell yeah.
I was actually kind of nervous reading that.
I heard it.
It's like a thing I created and I'm making it. I wrote that yesterday.
Sweet. I like
night.
it. I like
not much editing. Thank you.
We'll post it on our page.
Yeah, I was hoping to really do like that was the first stance that kind of like sets up the vibe, and then I get into like more bad of a bad trip kind of thing, and then the good of the good trip, or like a kind of accepting both. So it kind of feels like it has no beginning or end. It's just I just had fun playing with words.
Yeah.
And it's got a more percussive vibe to it. Anyway. So drugs are a thing that we talk about all the time, even though we're not any kind of medical or chemistry experts. I mean, fuck you. Turn it off if you don't want to listen to us. No, don't do that, please. No, we need you.
Just put it in the background.
That's it.
Just keep it playing. Do your thing.
That's it. Play some weird simulation game like Elite Dangerous or The Sims if you're that kind of person. And just listen to us tonguing your cochleas with our soothing baritone.
Sweet.
That sweet was disingenuous. You're like sweet. I guess.
I guess he's on something.
He's on to something, I guess. I love these fucking monkeys on the...
Yeah, it's...
We're called Curious Chimps, and there's tiny monkeys holding the microphones.
What's hilarious is the two emojis are basically our name. The curious face and then the chimp.
Oh, yeah, you sent me that. That was perfect. It took me a second to appreciate it. I was like, emojis? Like, that's kind of like... What's the word? Like, it's like cheesy and like whatever. Like, I don't want to merge those two worlds. Am I the only person who's just kind of like embarrassed about my entire internet existence?
It seems that way.
Is everyone else just like, yeah, that thing? And I'm like, no, don't talk about that.
You're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of guy.
Yeah, I hate it.
But yet you're immersed in it.
No, I mean, I don't even have Instagram, bro. I have Facebook.
I mean, but you're using it all the time.
Regularly. Yeah, it's an addiction. That's for sure. You got me there.
I respect that, though. You stay away from most of it. Like the dark corners.
I just hate it because I'm lazy. I don't. It doesn't deserve your respect. It's like I had no interest in any of this online shit because I saw the obvious dangers. I'm not like a lot of people saw the obvious dangers. Some people didn't. They got caught. I just got caught later. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm a fucking special human or anything, but I just had to. Eventually, I went to, I think it was Banff. was the first time. Like, I go traveling for a summer with some friends. I meet a bunch of cool people, and Facebook's like this intermediate. Like, I don't want to give you my phone number, but like, here's a bunch of pictures of me and my birthday and my address maybe, and like
Just sell your information to them.
yeah, it's weird.
Give your information to them. They
but it
sell
does feel safer.
Yeah.
Because it's like you got to push buttons to go onto Facebook. But if someone has your phone number, they can interrupt your life. They could literally like, doo-doo-doo-doo, and you're like, oh my God, my device is telling me, is like yelling at me, like, pick this up. That guy is calling you right now. There's something like real about it that's not there anymore. You know, like when you were kids, the phone was the phone, and it was all you had, and it made sense, and you kind of got over those social awkwardnesses. Anyway, English. Now it's like the phone rings. People have mini panic attack. You know, like, oh my God, why are you calling me?
Yeah,
text first. You know, it's like you can't even ring the doorbell.
I'm old school. I love calling my buddies.
Dude, I leave voicemails.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, and like 40% of my friends are like, dude, your voicemails are so awesome and hilarious. I love them. And everyone else is like, what's voicemail?
I get anxiety when my voicemail's full. Just like, fuck.
It's always full. That means you always have anxiety.
I just
hit some switches by accident.
Did you?
Maybe.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. We sound okay. I got too excited.
Dude,
I'm Italian. I literally, every time I call you, it's full. I hear it. I listen on purpose because one day it's not going to be full and I'm going to leave you a message.
It's two things that give me anxiety. It's numbers I don't recognize and when my voicemail is full.
That's fair.
Numbers I don't recognize, I wait for them to leave a voicemail, and that's where it stems into that anxiety of the voicemail being full.
The best is private caller or like, like incoming
I have
private.
2 friends that call by private, so I know it's one of the two.
Or some third fucking anyone.
It's been so long since that's happened, so I've taken it for granted. So
you don't have a little twinge every time? This could be anyone. But it's probably
I'm in for a surprise. Dude,
One day, man.
Dude, I had, growing up, from ages, I would say 15 till 20, I had this... Okay, let's backtrack. When I was 15, this guy drove by. I was waiting for the bus, and he asked to use my phone. So I said, yeah, no problem. He called his friend, whatever. It was a French guy. And then he gave it back and said, oh, he didn't answer. From that day on, till 20, so 5 solid years, I had phone calls once every 2 weeks, different numbers, asking for Ares. His name was Ares. And it was like people from all over the world. They're like, hey, is Ares there? I need to speak to Ares. I'm like, and I started...
one douche he called just like, yo, do you have his number? Like, yeah. He called me from this number once.
So
it must be his number.
Dude, I was playing along with him. I would just be like, oh, Ares is in here right now. Call back again in a few hours. Like, oh, okay, I really need to speak to Ares. This went on for 5 years. I strung them all along. It just turned into a game. I would be bored one day and I get a phone call. I'm like, oh, sweet. I can talk about
Why do I think you're a good person in my mind? My entire... Like if I could sum you up in one sentence, it's like he likes to fuck with people.
I like disruption.
You really do.
I like knocking people out of their routine.
Yeah, you like minorly inconveniencing everybody all the time.
Yeah, because people take shit too serious. And, it's nice to get poked.
That's true.
It's like hitting the needle onto a different track. It's like you get so obsessed with this one moment and then, oh, fuck, it's not as serious as I thought it was. This guy still can crack a joke and find some light into it.
That's the whole Cacophony Society thing. That's the allure. Because that leads by to unconsciousness. You're just stuck in a routine, and then some guy comes along and goes like left instead of right, and your brain freezes for like a hard fucking 30 seconds. You're like, eh. That's actually a thing in hypnosis that I could talk about at length, but maybe I shouldn't.
Why not?
I don't know. You were going to say something, I guess.
I would say this just brings us into our first podcast sponsor. The Yis Raps.
What's that?
The Yiddish Cacophony.
Oh, dude. Oh, my God.
What is it?
This podcast is sponsored by ourselves. So give us your money one day.
We're going to build it up. It's going to come. It was just like a project from the future that's going to grow later on.
Whoa. This podcast is sponsored by the future.
Boom. And all future sponsors. That made me so
happy. I don't know why. Yeah.
Well, let's go into what Cacophony is, just for the average listener who has no clue.
No one knows what that is.
I didn't know what it was until you brought it up to me, and I love it. It's fucking genius.
I told you?
You told me.
You told me. Whoa.
Did I tell you?
I don't know now.
Because then it's either you told me or I heard it from Duncan Trussell in a JRE podcast, where he was saying that he went to a bar in pajamas and 100 people met up. and they all just sang the song from Frozen in the middle of the bar.
I don't remember that. I remember they were in a grocery store in pajamas. Okay, we're definitely drawing from the same source material. And they had like a meeting, sort of. Maybe they sang Frozen. I hope they did.
I think they've done that in a bunch of places.
But then, doesn't that kind of turn the brain out? Like, if they all started singing, you'd be like, oh, this is a bit, you know? But if they were all sitting, like, at a table, like, you know, the IGAs have, like, an eating area sometimes? And they're all in their PJs and, like, like, really comfortable looking, like, flip-flops or, like, what are they called? Slippers. Forgot the word for slippers for a second. And they're all literally just having a meeting. Like, a guy stands up and they're all listening, like, very attentively. They're all taking notes and shit. And I don't even know what the fuck the guy's talking about. But then, like, the guy sits down, everyone, like, golf claps, and then, like, so another guy gets up and they address something else. Like, there's some kind of pajama community and they take care of something. Like, they actually have to have a meeting. Like, that would fuck with the person. But if it's a bit, if it's like a mob, like a flash mob kind of thing, then
it still fucks with people in probably a smaller scale, because once they see it, well, I mean,
a little for sure. But I love for me, the cacophony thing is really like whoa, what the fuck is going on? And there's no catharsis for a long time. So your brain is just going, like I said before, like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and you're not even sure the first thing was a shoe. You're like, what's happening? Are there 3 shoes?
Well, the whole thing about
4. Sorry, I was just waiting for you to talk.
Well, the whole thing about what cacophony is just, we all operate in bubbles, right? It's routines, bubbles, and normalities, and just we kind of, in a sense, we're in autopilot for a lot of things, you know. And it's just like going to work. If you're walking down the normal pathway that you take fucking 365 days a year, you know where you're going. You're almost tuned out. You
are, in a sense, like a best example of what you're talking about. People driving and they kind of don't have a clear memory of the time they just get home and they're like, what? Yeah. Like, they were so somewhere else in their mind, but they were driving. So part of their brain was like not accidenting, like, you know, like, okay, the light's red, the person in front of me is cutting me off. It was operating
more in the background, though. It was just
you just done it a million times. Anyway, continue.
So that's it. So cacophony, the whole idea, the notion of it is to disrupt that, wake people up out of that moment with a disruption. So, like, I think there was one they did for the Boston Marathon. It was fucking hilarious. They were all dressed as salmons, and they ran the opposite direction in the marathon.
That's genius. So
it's just a bunch of people doing a marathon in their zone, and then a bunch of wild salmons running through the crowd.
Going upstream. That's genius.
Like, and it's just like those blimps that just like remind you, holy fuck, okay, like I was gone for a second, I'm back. It's just like a little wake up call.
And it's funny because the word cacophony, I don't have a fucking dictionary in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it just means kind of like a sporadic background noise. You know, so like it is disruptive, but at the same time, there's something kind of like tuned out about it. So it's like a perfect word. Yeah. It's something that can come in and disrupt, but it's like this, it's almost like you're accessing this wave, there's this signal in the universe of cacophony and you're tapping into it. You know, like the other story that Trussell was saying was a bunch of people dressed up as clowns and they all waited at different stops of the same bus. So then, like, this, you know, like, imagine a bunch of people just going to work and a clown gets on, like, in full, like full dress. And then that's a little weird. And everyone, like, chuckles and goes back to their phones or whatever. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. And all the clowns are staring at each other. Like, they're confused also. They're like, what the fuck's going on? So it's like
beautiful.
You're like, is this just a coincidence? Is this the craziest day of my life? Should I play the lottery? Like, your mind starts going nuts. And any other day, you would just be on the bus fucking twiddling your thumbs or something. Oh, and the guys who started this are the same guys who started Burning Man. That's worth saying. They used to go in the fucking desert and launch pianos with catapults or some shit. Wow. And then Burning Man, whatever the fuck that is now. I've never been a part of it, but I'm sure it's changed a lot.
It's, from what I've been hearing and seeing, it's right up our alleyway.
Yeah, but it's fucking expensive, man. It's like a weird, experience. I think paid like $10,000 to fucking eat sand for 10 days or whatever.
Is it that much?
I don't know. I'm exaggerating.
From what I saw, the tickets to the event is about $1. But then getting there and then finding where to sleep. And
there's a lot of like, there's people who just set it up for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like spend an extra $500 and you come in our RV and we have water, whatever. You know, like you don't have to think about the details.
in that sense, you might as well just get a group of friends that all are in line and just rent out an RV together.
Yeah, I got a friend who goes pretty regularly.
Wow.
I think he's been like 4
You
times.
should get him on here and pick his brain about it.
I will.
That's fucking
I
cool.
love that guy.
I think people would like to hear about Burning Man too, because like we all have bits and information of it, but I actually really don't know what's going on down there. I know it's a giant art convention with music, and they have like a place for everyone.
Yeah, you hear a different story every time someone says there's that Cacophony thing we talked about. That's like the factory. Like that's all of the Cacophony gets concentrated in this fucking desert.
Wow.
And it's a desert. Like there's only people going there to do that. So you'd be weird if you weren't being weird, essentially. You know, even the cops and shit, like even the authorities are having fun, and they're dressed funny and they're getting hammered probably. I don't know, but like
There's one.
it's fun to talk about something I have no experience about, as if I do.
I heard in JRE, I forgot who said it, but this was really fascinating. They have this temple in Burning Man where you go there with, let's say, someone in your family or someone close to you died. So you go to this temple. It's like just built out of wood. It's just this little center that you go into in Burning Man, and you put a piece of whatever that person had there as an offering. So
Something you're holding on to, maybe or
it's a
photo
shirt or photo or anything related to that person. You put it there, and then at the end of the Burning Man ceremony, however long it is, you can imagine how many thousands of items are actually stored in that thing. They all sit around it and they light it on fire, and they all watch, and it's symbolizing letting go, and like that's the cutoff. Like that's where you finally you put it to rest. So it's like that's kind of fucking beautiful, you know.
Yeah. There's something hard about it, and like destroying, like moving on. Moving on seems like sometimes you're running away, sometimes you didn't move on fast enough. Like there's a weird, you're never ready.
I think in a setting like that where everyone's joining in, sometimes it just requires strength, and maybe the strength comes from the community, and seeing fucking 1,000 people putting their items will give you the strength to finally let go, you know. And
It's in my case, it wouldn't even be strength. It's kind of like a momentum, you know, like they're all doing it, and I'll just like jump on the bandwagon, and then afterwards I go like, wow, like this, I wouldn't have done that usually, and now I'm just like in it. Now I'm just like, oh, I did that, you know, this picture or whatever, this thing I held on to, you know, it could have been a dog collar or like a memento from a deceased grandparent, who knows, you know, but it's just something that it's been part of your day every day. You don't necessarily like look at it and mourn all the time, but it's like you never fully moved on, and now you're just taking it out of a place and putting it in literally fire and you're like, okay, ciao, bye, man, like whatever's left is the memories. And that gets fucked up too. I mean, I'm like super like neurotically philosophical, if that exists. And then I start thinking like, I'm gonna forget about like the memories get distorted anyway. Who am I even? You know, like the thing I'm mourning is like the person who I was when that person was around. And then separately, I'm mourning the loss of life also. I don't know if other people do this. I remember reading a book when I was a kid. I don't remember what it is. I think it's like that Terabithia book or something. But like, spoiler alert, these fucking kids, like a kid dies at the end, and it's super sad because it's just a book about like a kid, like a boy and a girl, and they meet and they have fun and they cross this like wooden, like this tree that fell, and like they can cross a river or something like that. And then one day the kid falls at the end of the book, he dies. And then there's this moment where the girl is like at the funeral, and she's talking about, it's this beautiful, like innocent, childlike perspective where she's like mad at everyone at the funeral because they're sad that they don't have like that kid in their life anymore. But she was sad because he can't live the rest of his life. And that scarred me, like that completely changed my perspective. I was like a little less, I don't know, I don't want to say like emotionally selfish. You're the one who's alive, you're the one who's sad, like the guy's dead, you know, like he's not feeling anything anymore, he's good. Nice. So in some ways I understand that, but like there is this existential sadness, you know, like there is literally this thing that could have continued is gone.
I think
Anyway.
that's the mourning process. There's two levels, exactly. There's the selfish, that this person's not in my life anymore, but there's also the tragedy that life has ended. And I think maybe part of the process and why it's so hard to get over that is because those two are so meshed together that you can't separate it and look at it, you know?
Yeah, on some level, you're just like now your mortality is more real. The whole world shifts when you. It's a drastic, permanent change. Death is weird.
Yeah, man.
Great segue into bad trips.
It's epic because I can get into my mushroom trip where I literally thought I was dead.
Yeah. Okay. So premise for this podcast: bad trips? Question mark.
Yeah, big question mark.
Yeah. 3 question marks. Like, so your claim on the last podcast, and I'll let you flow. I'm not gonna like debate you, but I'll maybe try to pull
Come
some
at me,
holes.
bro.
Come at. Do you even debate, bro? Okay, so you said last podcast. You
Number
said
3.
Number 3. We're on 4. Hey, it's
Boom.
fucking. Hey,
It's going.
Bing bang boom.
It's
Okay.
going.
So you said bad trips aren't a thing. Now, that sounds crazy to me, but I know you're a smart guy, so I didn't like rip you a fucking new asshole right away. I think honestly, I'm also just gonna end up agreeing with you, to be honest. Okay. But I'm definitely gonna play devil's advocate.
I love it.
Go.
And maybe I'll learn something out of the process. I'll just start with you defining to me what a bad trip is.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, because I want to know where you're coming from.
Okay. It's a negative experience associated with a drug trip, and the reason why it's so profound is because there's feelings of like time dilation or distortion and emotional uncontrollability during the trip. So as soon as you start going dark, it feels like an eternity. It feels like everything all at once. It feels like too much. You feel vulnerable. And like it's all playing into this one thing, the higher highs and the lower lows. So there's, no one ever talks about a good trip. There should be like another word, I guess. Bad trip has like it's snappy. It's got a ring to it. But like a glad trip. Glad trip and bad trip. Did it. All right. So okay. I just think, it's a...
So then why in essence is that a bad trip?
Well, I mean, I guess you're asking the wrong person. In the end, I think
that's the common thing I hear is that whenever I talk to people who have never dove in, it's like, I want to try, but I'm afraid of a bad trip.
They've never tried it. That's the thing. I've always felt, because I had like a shroom experience at a young age, well, young, like high school, whatever. I've always felt it was part of it. Almost any drug I took, even if it was something like ecstasy and you just feel like really good the whole time and you're bonding with people, there's this moment when it starts going away. And then that's some kind of mini bad trip. There's some people, they've even experienced this thing where they're instantly sober. Imagine you're on ecstasy and you're fucking riding high and you're really like artificially happy. You're glad tripping. And then it just like there's no staircase down. It's like a 30-foot fall, and then you burst into tears, like something's wrong, and you don't even know what. You're just, anyway. I'm ranting, but I actually don't see the problem with the bad trip. I just obviously know the difference. I feel like there's a discrepancy. Like for sure, I'm feeling worse. For sure, I'm suddenly like going through the dark forest, or like the sun's going down. Whatever. Poetic metaphor you want to use, there's moments of great discomfort, and I think those are the most useful times. Maybe that's because I think I need to learn through suffering and pain, and that's not necessarily true, but I'm almost holding my breath at this point and waiting for those moments when I'm taking a trip. And the word bad is in the name, so I get why you want to diffuse that, but I do, and I'm not playing devil's advocate here. There's definitely bad trips, especially when it comes to something like LSD. It's not something I'm super familiar with. I just feel like a lot of people have stories where it's like, that's the drug. It lasts long. There's very emotional parts of it. There's very visual parts of it, and you could even kind of be convinced things that are actually happening. It's altering your consciousness enough where you're getting tricked. And one time, when I took those huge dose of shrooms, I definitely bad tripped. I had like a fun time. I was with a friend. It was just me and him. We were both on the same amount. We just had like a huge bag of shrooms. We just cut it in two and ate it. So it was like between 6 and 8 grams. And it was fucking intense. It was nighttime. There's no cars. We're walking around in the street in like a small town. It was a great time. We both get home. I start fucking seeing shit. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, the fucking universe is downloading itself into my fucking skull. And I honestly was so far gone, I just accepted that I was not going to be sane anymore.
Okay.
And maybe that's the cornerstone. Maybe that is the fucking real, like welcome sign to a bad trip, is like, I'm not going to be okay ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts really being frightening. And it's not about I'm on a drug anymore. A lot of times now I remind myself, hey man, I took a thing. I'm supposed to feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
What it comes down to is, to avoid the bad trip, is you got to make sure all your bases are covered beforehand. You know, so your setting, you got to do it in the right spot. If you're doing it in a party, in a club, and you're taking mushrooms for the first time, and you're with a bunch of people, like we spoke about this over the phone, is just if like you're with a friend who's just sober and just doesn't realize, never tried, and just fucking with you and throwing shit at you and like trying to make you have one of those bad trips and like egging on you, but not in a friendly way, more like a taunting, playful way in his mind, but very damaging for you. Like that's gonna induce something that's gonna be quite hard to take.
And we talked about that yesterday on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, I've the time I took that same time, the same story I just said. We bumped it to some friends, and I mean, like we knew them. They were like high school buddies. They were like a year younger than us. They were little when they realized we were on something, because we had like fucking raccoon eyes and we were like staring into space and seeing rainbows and shit. We didn't have to tell them, is my point. It was like it was written on our faces. But then they'd come in and start like moving stuff and like moving their hands and like taking something off the wall and moving it, and I'd be like why are you doing that? And they're like, doing what?
Yeah.
Doing what, bro? And then they left for like 10 minutes and like went into the store, then came back out and started talking, like started the conversation from the beginning again as if it never happened. And I'm like, guys, you got to stop. Like, you're really fucking with me.
Disaster.
But it was just frustrating me. It was like, I'm not sober, but I'm lucid, and like, please go away now. You know, like you're just.
Well, it's not enhancing your experience. It's doing the opposite.
I never really explored why it was bothering me so much, though. It's almost like they were treating me like an idiot or something. There was some kind of insecurity, and I was like, guys, like, just be with me. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
Stop defining this experience by the fact that I'm on shrooms. You know, I don't want the spotlight on me in that sense.
Well, it kind of is no matter what you do, because they're the sober ones and you're tripping balls.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're the fascinating topic. But
yeah, but they just took it to a weird place, and I was like, can we just like move on, please? You know, I guess I don't know.
But anyway, the whole idea is that when all those bases are covered, you have the right setting, the right mind space. Whatever happens after that is out of your control. And for a lot of people, when you hear these crazy stories, they're taking their shirt off and they're running around. Yes, they might be crazy, but two is maybe they weren't fully mentally prepared for that experience, or maybe they had things inside them that they didn't know they had, and when they took the substance, it came to the surface and they couldn't deal with it.
So I took my shirt off on salvia once. I was convinced I was sweating and like drenched in sweat, and my friend was like, "Dude, you're dry. Like, what are you doing?"
When I used to do shrooms pretty often, I would think I had to go pee, and then I go to the washroom and nothing would come out, and I'd start panicking. So fuck, I thought I had to pee.
Yeah, the pee and poo feels weird,
it's mind fuck. And then I would lie down and be like, oh fuck, I really have to pee. And then I go and nothing came out, and I go back down. I thought I pissed myself, and I go literally 10 times back and forth to the washroom and nothing happened. I'm like, okay, I'm in a loop here. I just got to just fucking chill. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm in a loop. That's shrooms, man. Shrooms is fucking time loops.
So when it comes down to it, though, is the way I look at a bad trip is you're just having too much resistance to what's happening. And it's not meant to be a fucking smooth sailing ride. It could be, and that's fucking fun and games when everything's going right and it's like beautiful visuals, your friends and you are having great insight and laughing and just jamming. But the shit can go south too, and that's part of the psyche, the dark sides. And you can put a label saying it's bad, but there's something there that needs to be looked at and you've been avoiding.
Throwing the baby with the bathwater. Like, I love that expression. You know, like, you know what? If you want to think of it like this, you're pressing fast forward. You know, like if hopefully you're looking at these things as medicines and teachers, and you're like, that's what you're getting into. And even in the best of cases, there is like a sigh, a moment where you're like, you swallow the big pill. Whether that's during the trip, whether that's during like a fucking tornado of emotions, whether that's at the end when you had a great night, you were flying, and you take a breath and you're like, it's over now. It's yeah.
Like, we can go into this will tie in nicely. One of my mushroom trips back in 2015. This was a big transitional year for me, like just moving out of my family's house. My parents were going through like some struggles financially and emotionally, and just, it was a tough time. My dog died, and like that was also fucked up. Yeah, I held him. Me and my father were holding him as he was injected, because he was incurable. It was really bad. So that happened. Moving out, this all happened within the same like 4 month time frame. So very short period. Me and my ex broke up, which was also that's a fuck up, because it's a chunk of your life that's just completely different after.
Breakups are,
yeah, you know, you can intellectualize it and say, yeah, you can have a whole game plan of how you would be, but once you're in it, it's like, oh, there is a punch in the face, and I have to recover. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's extra hard, because there's almost like a drug aspect to being with someone. The losing a pet or something, like, it sucks, because the house is empty after, and like there's a trauma to like killing your animal. You know, like that's this weird. What's this being reality
that's been in your reality for like 14, 15 years?
Yeah,
just like you become just accustomed to them being alive. It's a surprise.
And the only thing that's harder is not being there for them when they die. Like it's there's a guilt after, you know, but it sucks so hard. It's so, like I said, traumatized. But anyway, life's piling it on.
A shit ton of things happened. Like it all hit at once, which it's been the story of my life, and I'm sure for most people it feels like things come in huge waves, and you kind of fight with it, and then you get over it, and you go into the next wave. And that's the beauty of growth. But so this all happened pretty briefly, like at one shot. And you know, my father was having a lot of trouble financially affording the house, so I left thinking it would take off a strain off of the family cost. And we can get into that in the future, it doesn't matter, but just for the sake of the story, that's the background that's the essence of it.
You were no bueno.
No bueno. So I'm trying to function. I'm doing my thing. I had a marathon that month too, so I just ran a marathon.
I didn't know that you've ever done that. That's amazing.
I ran twice. I did a 5K and a 7K, and then I signed up and did 42. It was incredible.
I don't know you, man. I just think I do.
Dude, you know, I do some interesting things, but... This
is why we're friends. I'm going to use this to compliment myself.
It was just one of those things that, so a little background on me, if you tell me I can't do something, I have to do it 10 times more.
Oh, good to know. Yeah. I'm going to use that against you.
And so someone, I forgot who, was like, it was my buddy Alex. He signed up for the half. I'm like, oh, fuck, I want to do the full. And he's like, you can't do that. I'm like, really? I signed up the next day.
I just picture the camera zooming out on your face, and it's that fucking Kill Bill, like... Like,
pretty much,
bro.
with that like siren, you know. So I signed up. I did it, and that was the beginning of killing those demons, but they were still lingering. So let's fast track to the mushroom trip. Went camping with 2 buddies. We set up tents and everything. It took 6 grams, maybe 5-6 grams.
I need to know: were you already high when you set up the tents?
Thank God, no.
Just wondering.
Sober, we already fucked it up.
We've all been there.
Like, I broke one of the rods, so we had to, like, the tent was, like, on a slant. It was a disaster. It was literally, took, like, 3 hours to put up.
Just like my life. You know, you just start crying. All right.
Set up the tent, pop the mushrooms. They took about 2 to 3 grams each, like, moderate dose. Like, they've been around, but 2 to 3 grams is pretty, you can function. You know, when you take the 5 and above, you know how it is. You're pretty much... a goner.
You're in another dimension.
Yeah.
You're another human.
So we take it. We go for a hike. I'm following them. it's already getting a little bit darker because we set up the tent late. And I'm following with them, and I'm listening to Anikaros, like I've explained in the past podcast. It's a shamanic song that they've created for those kind of realms. Usually in ayahuasca, they come up with the song.
We should just play one in the background next time.
Oof, that little...
Something terrifying about that shit. Maybe it's because we keep taking drugs and listening to them. Maybe
It
there's nothing special about it.
It flows, man.
It does. It really does.
The whole trip goes to that rhythm. It's perfect. So I put that on, and it's just playing, and he's hitting the fucking rattles, and all of a sudden it hits me. And like, you know, when you take mushrooms, you kind of know when it's coming on. It's usually like the wave, things start shifting where it kind of looks like things go in a little bit more slow motion and like clockwork. Like if you turn your head, you kind of see more frame by frame of the head turn. Yeah. I think that's pretty general for most people in the beginning stages when they just take it. But for me, that didn't happen. It just slammed me right off the bat, like upload, like. And I remember walking with him, and I'm like, guys, I can't continue moving these legs. I got to go back. And I think we're about 15 minutes into the hike, and they're like, you guys continue. I'm gonna head back to the tent. Without any fucking idea where the tent was.
Yeah.
Like I was following their feet. I was looking at their feet, following them walk. No clue where I was going. And they're like, okay. I'm like, guys, don't worry.
You just turned around. You just 180'd and started walking.
Literally. And I shit you not, I was following blue and green laser beams.
Oh, God.
Like in every direction I was following, and they were going, and I'm like, okay, oh yeah, make a right turn. I made a right turn, and then a left turn, and then a right turn. Like I'm talking, Sammy, maybe 10 or 15 turns. And then the rest is blackout. Don't remember what happened. And now...
Sun going down, head full of shrooms, no flashlight, in a forest.
So this is where shit hit the fan. And
so a bear ate you and you're dead.
Pretty much.
This is how the story...
You're talking to the astral Nate, and he's flown in for this podcast. No, so... So let's just rewind just maybe a month ago. I was driving. This is a month before the experience.
Okay.
Still in the midst of all what we told you about with the family and the dog and the ex. And I was driving, and I remember I was going near an intersection, and in my mind, I was in a very dark space. And in my mind, I was like, it's fuck. Like, I was going, and the light was turning red. I'm like, let's fucking go. If I get hit and I die, who cares? Like, this is, I'm okay with it. Just let me die. Like, I wasn't suicidal, but I was okay with the fact that if something happened, I'm on that line, you know? But I would never say that.
I did for people listening, I did like the hand, like, you know, when you put your hand out flat and then you just like flick the wrist. So it's like, this is
I'm dancing suicidal. I'm dancing on the line of like just not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
You
deep disconnect.
Yeah,
deep
just
dark.
Very dark spot. But still functioning, still doing my life, work and everything. Like, I'm not a hermit. I'm just not okay.
Dark but sweet, like a chocolate Oreo.
So that came back on in dream.
I was hoping you didn't hear that.
So that came back on, and all those emotions came back during that experience. So when I blacked out, I don't know where I was. And for about 2 hours, give or take, I thought I fell in the forest. And I was on the grass. It was completely dark. My buddies had no idea where I was, and I just felt vines going all over my body. Like literally all over my neck, my shoulders. And this, just for everyone's perspective, if you want me to categorize things as bad trips, this is the best case in my books for my experiences to be considered a bad trip. And I still don't call it a bad trip, but we'll put it in that category. I felt vines going across my neck, across my chest, across my hips, my arms, and I was lying down, or like in Shavasana, like in the corpse pose, but stuck. Felt gravity compressing me into the ground. I felt my breathing turn into like this, like, and I just felt age. I literally felt like I was 90 years old, and then my breath was going, and it was a fucking moment, and there was a voice. This is this really dark shit. It said, "You wanted to die that time? You really wanted to die that time? Okay, we're gonna die."
So it brought you back to that month ago moment,
but not in a conceptualized version, in a real version. Because when that driving happened, it was just an idea. So it's like, okay, you thought of this idea. Let's dance in the idea. And
damn, this is like a Tarantino movie. Yeah. You're like bouncing back and forth and shit.
Yeah, we're fucking. But it makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I like it.
So it was like, okay, You were thinking you were okay with dying? Okay, let's let you die. Let's see what happens. And I'm just like, and I'm fighting, man. I'm fighting. Like this shit's getting fucking scary, you know? And I'm just like, I didn't know what to do. And I'm freaking out. I can't vocalize. I can't do anything.
My heart's dropping just listening to you. It's like, why?
And this was happening, man, for like 2 hours. And I'm just like, and went completely dark. No more breathing, no sounds. Fucking the darkest of the dark. Like, you've seen nighttime dark, you've seen pitch black room dark. Go further than that if there is such a thing. And that's where I was.
Dark mind, dark soul, ocean of the nothing.
Just, you couldn't find light anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just there. And all I was just focus. And I was seeing it, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. And I felt like this pulse that started gaining momentum, like a like that. And that was my heartbeat. I'm like, come on, fight. I'm pushing myself. I'm like, fight, we gotta fucking get out of here. Fucking get out. And I'm squeezing. And you just hear, you know, like literally that's what was echoing in my ears.
Jesus.
And then I just fucking go and burst into tears like you've never seen. Just fucking pouring out of my eyes, Sammy. I'm telling you, pouring out of my eyes. My shirt was soaked. It was. I talked about like those anime shows where they have like those tears, like waterfalls flying out.
Yeah, it's like arching upwards over their heads somehow.
Like, yeah, with that face too. It was the exact face that all those animes have, and it's just flying out of my eyes. And I'm in fetal position at that point, squeezing my body, saying, "I'm fucking sorry. I'll never say that again to you. Like, I can't fucking believe. I'm so sorry, man. I don't want to fucking die. I'm squeezing and hugging, in fetal position, bro. And it was just that moment. I was way more conscious of my words and what I say, because what you say has a direct link to your state. And saying for yourself and for others too, right? If you use the wrong sort of words to people, to your buddies, like you have to choose what you're saying, especially when you're emotional.
That seems more intuitive though, but like to realize that like a part of your brain is talking and another part of your brain is listening, so you can really like speak to yourself. And a lot of times it might be really like unwise, the words we choose, and we don't or just unconscious. And the body's listening, the mind's listening, and like you know, there's this thing called singing therapy, even just to drive the point home. And it's like, it's the same thing as like stream of consciousness, like writing. You just don't think and you just write. Or if you sing, you're worried about singing, and you just kind of talk melodically, and you start having breakthroughs. You start saying what you mean, and you get surprised at what you're saying, even though you're the one saying it. You're like, oh fuck, I feel that way. Like, it's crazy cool trick. Yeah. It's a fucking cool trick.
There's therapy like that. If you just keep write your ideas down until it starts making sense, and then something forms. Oh shit, okay, and then you look into that. It's very cool kind of therapy, that kind of stuff.
And it's like hacking that. It's like you have to trick yourself into getting this avenue of information, even though for the most part,
when you're flowing like that, the unconscious is going to start presenting itself into the conscious, right?
Yeah. It's in my mind, it's almost like two consciousnesses. It's like one thing is going through stuff, feeling stuff, totally having this experience, and then there's like the you that you are and present, sort of, and it's not fully aware of this stuff. And then you start expressing it, and you go, oh shit, that's me. That's I don't even realize what I'm going through at any given moment. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, I'm getting really excited here. I'm going to calm down.
So that happened, and I was in fetal, crying like crazy, and turns out I wasn't in the grass. I was in the tent. I had no fucking idea I was in the tent.
You were already at the Tarantino movie.
I literally
I
was like netting for things, and I felt the tent. Like, this was before like that whole insane like constriction
thing.
Like, I felt the tent, but it felt like I was grabbing like the framework of gravity of the universe. It was like I didn't know it was the tent. I thought I was actually stuck.
Something closing in. Kind of thing,
like I felt like I was actually grabbing the air, and I'm like, oh my god, like I feel it's closing in. So I was fucking crying like you don't imagine. And right next to me was actually my buddy. He was crying too. And then my other buddy was at the fire. He was crying. So we were all kind of sharing this moment of pain. But
like not really.
But separate, right? It was our own thing. Each of us had our own shit we're working through.
But at the same time.
That's
cool.
Yeah. And it was when I became conscious and hugging myself, I'm like, yo, you guys there? And they're like, yeah, we're here, man. We're here. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. And I was hugging myself, bro. And it was completely empowering, because I said something to myself in an unconscious manner, just like, oh fuck, if I die now, it's all good. I didn't truly mean it, but I said it. Yeah. And, you know, whether you mean it or you don't mean it, you said it. And when it's out there, it has value. And that was a big lesson to me, man. It's like, I'll never fucking say that again because I don't mean it. You know, if I meant it, I would have done it. I didn't fucking mean it.
I think it leaves a little stain, man. I think it's a really fucked up thing to say to yourself. I remember a couple months ago, I was really depressed. I was starting my new job, and it was really stressful. I was at a hospital. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just doing like a desk jockey kind of shit, and there's like doctors and nurses freaking out all around me, and I gotta like just answer the phones and shit. Like I feel so like impotent, you know? And on top of that, I don't even know how to do the job properly yet. And I remember I'm on like a high level, and there's like elevators, and like it connects to the like this other building, and there's this drop, and I was so depressed that day. I was like, just fucking kill yourself, like just jump off. And it was such a like, I mean, it is what it is. I literally just had this like suicidal thought. I'm just like, oh, wouldn't it be great to just be dead right now? You know, like really darkness. And now when I pass by that place, I think of that moment every time, and it's not fun. I'm just like, fuck, man. Like that was me. Like there's this empathy for my past self feeling that shitty, and there's like this pathway sort of that I built, and it's like really not worked yet. It's not like, you know, but it's there, and it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's like ominous. It's like this thing I pass by sometimes at work is like this dark tunnel of existential doom now, because I just had this like emotional. I had this moment. It's like this. It's like it's like I burnt that whole spot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know,
and it's confusing to feel that way, and then to not feel that way, and then to feel the rationalizations at the time. So, okay, here's what I gathered from your story. First of all, your life is a Kill Bill movie. You know, you literally, like, you punched out of the grave. You're the bride. You're the bride.
Yeah,
okay, so
that's what it felt like. That scene exactly.
That's it. You punched yourself out of the grave.
It was literally that.
And cried like a fucking crazy,
it was death and
powerful
rebirth.
Woman.
That was literally death and rebirth. That experience.
Yeah, that's a bad trip. As soon as you remember that you're gonna die, you start feeling weird.
But why is it a bad trip?
Well, I mean, we could get semantical or whatever, and like, you know.
But it was what was necessary. It's up to me to accept or reject it. But it was what was necessary for me to get over the dark space I was in currently at that time.
Yeah, man. A drug trip is exposure. A trip is hyper real. It's not.
That's people's fear more
the
than
opposite
anything.
Of that.
When they say I don't want a bad trip, it's them really saying like I have some shit inside that I'm afraid to look at.
They might not even realize that. If I'm going into some fucking ceremony or something, I know I'm gonna face some demons. And I love this quote from actually it was from Doctor Strange of all things. So many quotable lines in that movie, because it's like this kind of like spiritual ambiance in the movie, even though it's like a fucking Marvel movie. But the Master Girl says we never kill our demons, we only learn to live above them. And
just gonna cut you off for a second. There's a quote from Bruce Lee. It says I'm not in a room filled with demons. My demons are in a room with me.
Yeah,
you know, it's like the same idea. I butchered the quote. It's not exactly that, but it's basically that premise. It's
like they're threatened by him. He's not threatened by them. Yeah,
it's fucking. That's it.
Tracks. That's Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I got demons.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that. You ever see the Enter the Dragon? Whatever, like that kind of. I forgot what it was called. It was referencing something with the dragon thing, but it was like the movie about his life. Like it wasn't a Bruce Lee movie. It was a movie about Bruce Lee with another actor.
Okay.
Dude, they have this cool way of showing like the inner demon. It's a really cool movie. I'll just spend like an hour trying to explain it. Like just go find that movie. I'll find the name or something. I'll say it next time. But it was so cool, man. It's like this like kind of armored like ancient warrior looking thing, and it was just like innately terrifying because he's like a child again in his visions, and then like the mask of the warrior suddenly like grows these like spikes. And it's like really fucking scary. Like they had like Maybe I was just young when I watched it, but I really felt like I was in there with him. Anyway,
Wow.
I'm just ranting now. And then he has a son, and then his son goes through the same thing, or it's
Wow.
like him seeing his son and seeing himself as his son, and
Okay.
it gets deep fast, man. It gets deep really fast.
Yeah.
Anyway, bad trips, Bruce Lee. It's all connected.
Yeah.
What was I saying with the demons and the?
What that's what it comes down to is you're facing the demons are always there. You have to choose. You have to learn to live with them, like you were saying before.
Yeah, and there's just this preconception of the possibility of an unpleasant experience, and people are all like, this is a piece of life that you're taking. This is like I said before, it's kind of like a fast forwarded experience. It's a learning lesson, like times fucking 17. So there's gonna be just the richness of life, the good and bad, up and downs. You're gonna travel through them, not over them, through them. Even in life, sometimes it's easier to travel over stuff, and then as you're going through it, you don't appreciate it, and then a month later, you might realize the connection, kind of thing. But when you're in a psychedelic space, everything is as it is, which is connected.
Yeah.
And it, it's you. Like I said, you suddenly remember you're dying. Everyone's dying. Everything's changing. Nothing's permanent. All of that's terrifying. All of that is very uncomfortable and very inconvenient to all of our perceptions and all of our functions and everything we work to build. And it's all a sandcastle and it's all going down. And we have to somehow be okay with that and mourn the expectations we once had, and then still kind of just learn to have fun with the sand and make a really dope sandcastle. Like Aubrey Marcus said, like it's going down. The tide's coming in. But it's coming in anyway.
Yeah.
If I can make a sandcastle.
But that's it. It's when you bring in what I want out of this experience and what I'm expecting, that's when you're going to have a tough time, because you may not want to have a good you may not want to have a bad experience. You want to have you want to ride it out and enjoy it, have a fucking great time. And with my buddies, let's trip and let's enjoy this weekend. And all of a sudden you're thinking about your parents and then the shit you did wrong when you were younger, and all these things are floating through your mind.
Yeah.
That's where you need to realize the want and the I aspect in a psychedelic world is not as strong in this reality. The ego self, where you kind of can create what you want and take what you want. In those realms, it's not the person riding the ship anymore. You're in tune with what's coming to the surface, and you have to kind of accept what's happening, because it's not your decision at that point.
In my field of experience with psychedelics, it feels like a harsh dislocation of the ego. I still really identify, as me, and there's just this like great buildup of pain, of like this just human anguish, this raw material of just suffering starts bubbling to the surface, and then I have no choice. I'm like kicked out into this observer, and it's like, wow, look at the Sammys and so much fucking pain, and then
look what the ego used to cover that pain and hide it, so you can keep going forward.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's genius, though.
It's not doing itself a service.
It's
in the long
amazing
run.
for survival.
Yeah, that's
why
what it's psychedelics are kind of counterintuitive. That's why booze is the human drug. It's the social lubricant. It's the numbing. It's the it'll even give you some little reflection moments and psychedelic stuff. Like it can go there, but it's so convenient. There's a little tomorrow hangover. If you're taking shrooms or something, the hangover, the bad trip, the hangover is mixed into the experience. Unless you take a shitload and you're like slow for a month or something. Like you're okay the next day.
Yeah.
Microdosing, all of these things might even have a lot of benefits, like we're finding out now.
Yeah.
But fuck, man, if you're in a trip and like I said, in my case, like I'm not detaching easily, and I fucking feel it every time. As soon as I come back, as soon as I start getting a little bit like back to sobriety, I feel like this sigh of relief, and I hate that moment, because it's like a part of me goes like, oh fuck, finally I could just like go back to being myself, and it's like, that's what? No. A part of me is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then that's what's funny is I keep saying a part of me, and like me and you, we're just on the ride. We're not experts yet, and who knows, what the future holds, kind of thing. But I feel like there's a little danger, and I've read about this as well, in like fracturing yourself in that sense. And again, it's like the way I talk to myself. But it is the way I'm experiencing it. So it needs to be addressed. There's facets of me, but they're all me. And then if I go like, oh, a part of me is like arguing with another part of me, and then I start having like eggs in a basket kind of thing. Like, oh, do I invest in this side of me? Do I invest in that side of me? Which one's running the show? Which one acts as like the decision maker? None of that stuff is really real. That's where it starts getting really messy for me. Is like, stop fragmenting yourself so that you can go through these experiences and just go through these experiences.
Fuck, it's tough though.
Yeah. It's also something I don't want to fully get into because I've brought it up a couple of times in the podcast. Like, we wouldn't have much to talk about if we just end it there. Like, just do the thing, you know? Yeah. Like, honestly speaking, I don't believe in advice. You know, like, people are just going to do what they do. Most of us don't have the, like, intellectual power and the lack of ego to learn from other people's mistakes. And if we could, it would be kind of weird and boring also. I think we all have places where we can be better. You would be
the perfect product of your parents if that was the case.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't happen. Yeah, no one's like that. I'm sorry.
That
doesn't exist.
That's the beauty of it.
And if it does, it's 1 in a fucking million.
It's usually,
go fuck yourself.
Even for me, it's like I'll get advice from my buddies, and it's like the 9th time they tell me that I'll finally say, okay, I tried every fucking alternative, and none of it worked. I'll try what you said, and see if that worked.
I have a friend who lives his life by the Zodiac. And it must be working for him because he never stops. But like he's like, okay, Sammy's a Taurus, and he just like gets me gifts sometimes. It's not my birthday, nothing. He goes like, I heard you mention this thing, or like I just thought of you, like this makes your life a little easier. And he knows he's fucking buttering me up, and he knows it works. And he also knows that he can't give me advice because if he tells me to go left, I'm gonna go right. If someone tells you you can't do something, then you go fuck you. I can't. I'm the other way around, but not exactly. It's a different demon. It's like. You come in and say, yo, you're fucking up. Do this instead. I'm going to double down on my fuck up. I'm going to go, fuck you, bro. Let's see where this goes. Okay. And then I'll go. And then at the end, if the fucking, you know, everything's burning behind me and I go, okay, you were right. I'll admit it. But it's got to be on fire. I got to get to that point. And he knows that about me. So he doesn't poke the bear anymore.
Interesting.
Anyway, but I just find that hilarious. I just, like, he literally... I mean, I find it funny because it does apply to me. And I don't want to project that onto everybody. I think I can be really fucking stupid, like really dumb, really stubborn sometimes. And I've met some people who you just tell them something once and they're like, okay. You know, so you tell me something, it could take 7 fucking years, but I get it eventually. I change my life. I actually do it. But it's almost like I have a backlog or something. So it's like, okay, put it on the list. You know, like
yeah.
Anyone who knows me, you'll see this too. Anyone who knows me, you tell me something. Oh, Sammy, you got to do this thing for that. Okay, the podcast. Okay, we'll set that up. Okay, we got to do this thing. Fucking 4 months later, I do it, and then you're like, dude, I forgot about this. Yeah. But thanks. I guess we still need this thing. You know, like, nice. It's not good. I'm not useful. We're not good in life.
I just speaking about things you say to yourself, and then you say you're not useful.
I'm not. I'm a useless human being. I strive to be useful. That's actually what I want to do, but I've never felt that way.
Okay.
And that's full circle. What comes up in bad trips for me a lot. That's what sucks. There's this like self-care, self-promoting. I don't need anybody. There's something in the culture that's like be solitary and be successful in your solitude. And be okay with being alone and all that kind of stuff. I want approval. I want someone to come in and go, that thing you just did, do that again. That was great. And sometimes I don't want to earn it. You know, if I go to school, if I get the thing, if I know how to do the thing, and then I can do the thing like a professional, then I don't care what anybody says. But that's almost like too easy, even though that's the real work. Whereas I actually do... get down on myself in this weird like vicious cycle kind of way where I don't want to I don't praise myself. I need someone else to come in and go like, okay, you're doing a good job. And even then it's like a drug. It's like this oh, thank you, give me more of that, you know. And
when you get that, you work harder at it?
No. I'm screwed either way. If I get the praise, then it's like I got what I want and I can kind of take the foot off the gas.
Interesting. And that comes up in your psychedelic experiences?
Yeah. You know, that's that's like a second thing I would label a bad trip as.
Okay.
Is like just regret in the past. You know, like the future in an extreme is the end, is death, and you're just suddenly I'm bad tripping because I'm like, oh my God, the thing that is having this experience will not be alive anymore. And then, whoa, you know, just endless whoa. But
do you have a specific trip that you recall that was like category bad trip?
I definitely have a few. You know, I think... Wow. The mush trip I explained was definitely intense. It was a great time, but it lasted so long. And then, like, I go home, I get into my room. I was young, right? So, like, my father comes to pick me up from my friend's house, and I'm blasted on, like, 6+ grams. And, like, I start seeing anything I look at starts spinning out of control and then imploding on itself. And I'm just like, uh-oh. And I'm trying to just like play it cool kind of thing because I'm literally like driver's side, like a passenger side of my father, just like driving on the highway kind of thing. I look at a car, it starts spinning. And my first instinct is like, hey, Dad, look out kind of thing. But I just say nothing because I don't know what's real. Then I get home and I'm alone in my room and I'm like really freaking out. Like every fucking thing, everything. I remember these words coming to me at the end or like 3/4 into my trip. Everything is inevitable. That makes no sense. It's like, what are you saying? But that's the sentiment. Like, just such a harsh, nonsensical download that I was not ready for, which is like the staple of shrooms. It was just too much for me. And I remember saying that to myself, like everything is going on all the time. And that somehow made sense to me, and it was overwhelming. I felt it. It wasn't just like some weird words. It was like this like, I don't know. I was just trying to understand what was happening to me. And I remember feeling so like gone, so far gone, and starting to doubt my sanity that I just like, I had like a lamp on, this awesome fucking Ninja Turtles lamp that I still have. I took the metal thing off and I just like put my finger on the bulb, and I just stood there like waiting for it to hurt. Okay. And I burned my finger and I pulled my hand away and I went like, oh, okay, I'm not that crazy. Like that, that was like my saving
your
moment.
Test back into reality.
Yeah. I was like, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then fucking like 5 hours later, I jump on like MSN or whatever we used to do, and like people start waking up, and I'm just like, I'm so happy that I'm not going insane, that I'm just like awake, I'm wide awake, I'm just having a good time. I'm still tripping like crazy, but I'm like, it just went down a step or two, and I'm like, okay, I'll be okay. But I can't. It's almost like I skipped over the bad trip in my story. Like I can't even really explain it. It was too much, you know. I took too much Special K once. I hate that drug.
You got into it a little bit in the last podcast, but we didn't talk about your experience too much.
Well, I was, because look, like I said, it's an anesthetic. So if you take enough, you just get conked. But in the steps before you take that much, you will trip the fuck out. And it blows my mind that people just get this like injected like intramuscularly or something at a hospital. They're just like, oh, this person needs a painkiller, quote unquote, you know, and here, like, have a fucking ride, buddy. You're not feeling that pain anymore, but you also don't even care if you die. Like, that's where K brings you. You're so numb. You're just like, I get hit by a car right now. Fuck it.
Wow.
I remember one time I was just on K and I was like, it's like you drank a 2-4 and you're so hammered, but you're not sick. Like you drank a whole 2-4. Like, I don't know how to describe it. You're so out of it. And I'm just there. I'm like lying down in my bed and I'm just kind of praying that like a plane just Donnie Darko's me, like out of nowhere. Like I'm just like, I won't feel it. Maybe that's it. It's like you're not afraid of pain anymore because you're so numbed out.
Wow. So
you're just like, I could die right now, whatever.
Is it visual?
Well, that's where the bad trip comes in. There's something really like you know when you said you have more frames on shrooms, you have like less on K. And then like you hear a truck passing by, like it just goes like like the sound is skipping the sound, like it's crazy. There's really like a lot of weird effects. I remember one time I was like fresh off a fucking bump because like you snort it, and I felt so numb. I just like did a shoulder roll, like I'm like from standing, and like I roll and I come back up, and then it's like we were talking about earlier, like you drive and you don't remember the drive. Yeah, I just had no experience of doing the roll. I was just like standing, something happened and I was standing again, and I was like, my brain was like, you just rolled, and then my body was like, no, I didn't.
Okay.
And my brain was like, no, you totally rolled. I said roll, and then you rolled. It all happened, and my body was like, I didn't roll, bro. You rolled. You know, like it's like I'm talking to a drunk person. But the bad trip was the K-hole, quote unquote. I took a little too much, and I remember I'm in my friend's car, and he's driving. It's like wintertime, and he's drifting a little bit. He's like a really good driver, and I don't feel scared at all, you know. But he hits like a hard drift, and like the world like breaks into a million, like in the direction of the drift. And like I'm in all of those worlds, so like my consciousness is fucking shattered at this point, and all I really remember is this like infinite time zone. It like literally felt like forever, and there was like this endless stream of like totems, like literally like pieces of like a totem pole, like different animals, and one has like a wing off to the side, and one of them's like a face, and like just these beautiful crazy shapes, and something kind of coherent about like they're animals, they're people, but it was this endless thing. And like my consciousness was like interrupting it, and like each time it was like when you put a playing card on a spoke of a bike, and you know these things would just come and touch me as they passed, and they were everything. One of them was like the concept of community. One of them was like everything I remember about my brother. One of them was like family in general. One of them was like my moment, and one of them was drugs. One of them was like an entire section of a library, like from when I was in grade school. Like these chunks of information, completely like non-sequential, like just, and like I come to. Apparently, having had like conversations with my friend, he was freaking out because I was like unresponsive. My eyes were wide open. He parks the car. He starts slapping me. He starts yelling at me. He's like, "Dude, I got work tomorrow." He starts fucking slapping me in the face. He's like freaking out, and I'm just like staring. I'm not blinking. Nothing. He says that when I took that drift, that starts the story. He says my head just went kunk, like it just hit the fucking window, like I had no reaction.
Ooh.
And then I come to, and I'm paying for food at KFC.
Wait, so from that experience, you came back to it and you were at KFC paying for it?
Yeah, so it's like I got out of the hole, but I didn't remember like the first 20 minutes.
Okay.
So like I'm ordering food, and then like I'm reaching for my wallet, and I kind of realize what's happening.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh fuck." And then there's this girl in front of me, and she's like waiting for me, and I don't know how high I look. You know, and like that whole moment like it just gets so real and so like earthy.
Chunk from in the car until KFC, you don't remember that moment.
Zero.
Ooh.
I just kind of, it's like a dream. It's like I'm like, oh yeah, I was ordering food like a second ago. But between that moment and the infinity spiral, it was inconsequential. My brain was just like recovering from the fucking infinity nonsense. And that, while I was in it, was so stressful. I could whatever part of my body I could feel, I felt like I couldn't fucking breathe. Like I just, like, you know when people talk about night terrors and like sleep paralysis? I've never experienced that, but that's what it felt like.
I used to have it every night.
It's true, you told me. Yeah, I felt like something was sitting on my chest the whole time, but it was like very emotional, and like I was out of my body. It was like this beam of my consciousness was just being fed this different reality, this different experience, and it literally felt like an eternity, like no point of reference for time. Anyway, I could rant forever. Like that was a trip. And a lot of it felt bad, if you will, you know. Like,
yeah, that's a tough one.
It's almost an easy one though, because I had no say, I had no control, I had no point of reference for myself or the outside world.
How long does it usually last? The special K?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I'd say like 45 minutes.
That?
Like maybe an hour.
Okay.
Something. You take a little more, you feel good again, kind of thing. Good, quote unquote. But I just like was already blasted a little bit, and then got ahead of the dose, and then I fucking K-holed.
Okay, wow.
Out like fucking.
We could talk about my buddy's bad trip on DMT.
Oh man, DMT bad trip? I want to hear about that. I don't really have other bad trips. You know what? A lot of bad trip stories I would have. Weed.
Okay, my whole argument goes to shit here, because I've had bad trips on weed.
Well, your argument already, it's you're just presenting it wrong, because like you're saying bad trips don't exist, and then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, to avoid a bad trip, like mind your set and setting. Like you believe there's a discomfort possible, and some of it can and maybe even should be avoided, and the rest needs like a acceptance, and then that's the vulnerability leading to integration and growth and all that stuff that we.
The thing about it is practicing acceptance and surrender in a bad setting is really difficult.
And it's impossible for me personally. Like my set and setting really governs my experience.
Yeah. For me with the LSD at the dinner party was the fucking hardest experience to practice surrendering and acceptance.
But it was a sweet spot because you got there, and now you're you got a blue belt or whatever you want to say. Like you got
because I managed through it, which was like I still think about it. And I'm like, how the fuck did you pull through in a full tab of pharmaceutical grade LSD in a fucking crowded restaurant with a party of 12 just eating dinner? And yeah, first time on LSD. Like that was an achievement. I'll always keep that notch on my belt.
But you were just thrown into the situation and made the best out of it. And like you didn't think you could, but you just did. You know, that says a lot. You know, just our limits are not what we think they are. You know, what's that guy, that David Goggins, the 40% rule?
Yeah.
I love that, man. I'm trying to integrate that. You think you're at the end, you're not even close.
Not even close. I see that with my clients when I'm training them. Like, they'll be sweating and freaking out. 5 reps left. They do the 5. I'm like, give me another 5. They do it. I'm like, just 2 more. Okay, last one. And then all of a sudden, they just did like 9 extra reps.
And you're like, where was that yesterday, motherfucker?
It's just you put these little walls and boundaries to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, what's that video online where that dude... It's like a football movie, and the coach is like, "Give me everything you got," and he like puts a dude on his back and does like the death crawl across the field.
I remember that scene.
I don't know what movie it is, dude. The guy, he puts a blindfold on him, and the guy he crawls across. He's trying to get to the 30, the 50. He ends up fucking getting to the end zone.
Yeah,
and the guy's like, "Holy shit, I didn't know what I had in me." And he's like, "Well, that's my point, bitch."
And most of us are operating like that. We're operating like that. We don't know what the fuck's going on underneath.
It's fun. And that you're checking under the hood when you're taking drugs, essentially.
Pretty much.
And you're not a mechanic yet. You're just like, huh? What is all this? What's that?
The system feels weird. I need to try something. And then you look under the hood, it's just fucking smoke.
Yeah.
These wires aren't connected.
Yeah. Smoke. Something's on fire in the corner. You're like, okay.
I'm in it. What do I do? And you're literally the only person to fix it, which is hilarious.
You're the mechanic and you're the car. It's weird. Okay, DMT bad trip. Go. I want to hear this story. I'm curious.
Buddy Simon, I'm going to throw him out there. You met Simon.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So we did. I finally got my batch of DMT, which is hilarious. I was looking for it allegedly, right? It's all allegedly.
None of this is real.
None of this
is all fiction.
It's all part
Drugs
of the dream.
Drugs are bad. Don't do them. Just, you know.
What are drugs? I've never tried any of that shit.
The only drug I have in my life is Jesus Christ. That's all I got to say about that.
I'm with you on that. You've converted me on this podcast.
Our Lord's blood is all I need for salvation.
Do you drink the holy water? Is that a thing?
You know what? It seems like it's a stagnant pool of water. There's something waxy about it too.
Probably has like that metallic taste since it's in that fucking bowl all day.
How do they make holy water? Is it literally just water that they bless?
Yeah, they just give it a nice little blessing. I have no clue.
They don't throw stuff in there?
It's like the same thing in kosher. Just the rabbi does a little prayer and it's good to go. There's more to that.
I feel like that's wrong.
Okay, so I was looking for DMT for a few years. Found this guy. I don't know how. I forgot how. Sold me 0.3 for $250.
I have no point of reference.
So
that sounds like a lot.
It's not a lot. Because 0.3 of a gram is like, it's like
that's it. You buy like an ounce of weed for like the good stuff for like $300.
Yeah.
So
well, like keep in mind, like
so
now you can
grams.
find a gram for about 150, 200.
Okay.
So I was paying like, and this we're talking like 8 years ago. Anyway.
No one knew what the fuck that shit was 8 years ago, right?
So this guy meets me. I'm waiting outside, like at a bus stop, and he's on a motorcycle. It's fucking pouring out. He's in a yellow jumpsuit, rain suit, like it's like one piece.
You're really building a paint. You're really painting a picture for me here.
He's on a Harley. He has a fucking orange helmet and giant circle. You know those
Like those steampunk,
like Mad Max,
like
those
sand
goggles,
goggles,
sand goggles with a beard, and he's like, "Hey man,"
with a beard.
He's like, "Hey man, you Nate?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I got your stuff.
Have fun."
The guy stinks like mushrooms. He's like, "You want some mushrooms too?" I'm like, "No, just the DMT." We do our weird exchange, and he goes off into the rain. I never seen that guy again. I texted him back for a re-up like a year later, and then it was like a discontinued number. Okay,
I want to know that guy's story.
We'll never see him
I'm
again.
very distracted. Anyway, continue.
I remember calling Simon after freaking out. I'm like, "Yo, dude, this is the weirdest fucking drug deal I've ever experienced."
I just bought DMT from Dr. Seuss.
He was the perfect character for that job. So anyway, we did it we've done it a few times, but one of the experiences was in my car and in a parking lot, which like, yo, we found a spot, we're good. It's late at night. Give it to him. I do it first. It was very nice. I didn't break through at the time. It was very visual though. And then he goes and he's out. Usually when you take DMT, you're out. You look like you're sleeping for about 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes less, sometimes more, but around that range. And then you wake up and it was like a dream state. You have a recollection, but it usually fades pretty quickly. So he woke up in panic, like grabbing me. He's like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Yo, are you okay?" He's like, fuck man, what the fuck was that? What the fuck, bro? What the fuck? I'm like, "Yo, Simon, what happened?" He's like, so he takes a moment. I'm like, "Just breathe. Tell me when you're ready." And what he recorded, what he saw, it was pretty intense for people listening. Like, this has happened before in other people. I've read these kind of trips. In the Spirit Molecule book by Neil Strauss is actually a very common theme, what I'm about to say. And it's very I've never had it. Simon had it, so it's like, holy shit. A lot of people had it. And it's really odd that there's similarities from people across the world. Simon doesn't know any of that literature. He never read any of that. So what happened is when he took it, he woke up, in his mind, he woke up on an operating table in a hospital room. And I
remember this story now, and I don't want you to say it anymore, but let's go. It's so bad.
So he wakes up. I might be butchering because it's coming from a third party. It's not directly from the person experiencing it.
Just own it, bro. Just make it up.
Own it. Yeah, I'm going to add some shit, Simon. You ready? There was like a naked chick back there.
Yeah, that's it. Sell it.
So he wakes up on this...
The biker was there.
He was there. He's like, "How you doing, bro?
You want some shrooms?
You doing good, man?
You want some shrooms with your DMT?"
He's fucking hitting the guitar. Boing. It's like a very Pink Floyd-y sound to it. "You good, bro?" Then his face turns into like 20 of his faces like in like a kaleidoscope. "How's it going, man?"
I am the drug.
Dude, okay. I've had that kind of experience too. Just a kaleidoscope of faces.
I had that more in dreams than
I've had that in salvia. It was weird.
Oh, salvia. Let's talk about salvia after. Okay.
Oh, I love salvia.
Okay, so he's on an operating table.
Wakes up, boom. Sees two insectoid beings with fucking giant red eyes and big fangs, just like operating on his body, ripping out rib after rib, taking out everything and looking at him going, hee, and like taunting him. And he was panicking, like, and they're looking, and they were cracking things inside him, like
little roach gremlins.
Yeah, like he said the way they looked was just like these giant, like fucking octopus insect tentacles, just with evil faces, just taking
everything
things out.
Scary mixed together, essentially.
And he's there completely powerless, just watching them operate on him, taking out pieces of his body, cracking things into place, and then wakes up back in my car. Fucking panicked. What the fuck, bro? Like, what is that? I didn't know that can happen, I was in the car and now I was on a fucking operating table in some alien spaceship having my body taken apart. Yeah. So that one took him a while.
What's a while? Like months?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's ever done DMT since. He's done ayahuasca since, but the DMT, I don't.
At least.
Yeah. But
that's very different. Wow.
Well, they're very different, right?
But I wonder, like, I mean, not to put that on you, but like, I feel like someone like the guy who does the ceremonies, if he saw something like that, he would sense it while it's happening, and then like touch your forehead or something, and you'd be okay, like some crazy shit that we just don't know how to do yet.
Yeah, maybe, maybe he needed an Icaros in the background. I don't know, We were fucking young too, man. I was like 16 giving him DMT, or 17, whatever. It was fucking kids. But, dude, he talks about it to this day. He thinks, in retrospection, that it was actually, they were doing him good, and he was resisting it. Retrospection?
Sorry.
Is it?
I'm like hanging up. It sounds like a word.
We'll use it. We'll fuck with it. And if
Retrospection achieved.
Retrospection. It's a new podcast word. Now he looks back on it thinking that maybe what they were trying to do to him was actually positive, and he was just resisting it. Because he's like, I'm not sure. I think they were trying to fix something the more I think about it. And I was just, my fear wasn't letting them. Because the more afraid he got, the more evil they became. So it's kind of like he was feeding them. Maybe his mind was part of it too. Maybe he didn't have enough to break through. I don't know. But now that it's past, he looks back at it thinking like, oh, fuck, you know what? Maybe it wasn't a bad thing. Maybe
it's up for interpretation, yeah.
There's something in my chest that they were trying to crack back together.
Well, there is a lot to be said about, like you were saying, how a lot of people had similar experiences. Like there's just like innate, there's things that all humans kind of go through just because we're all in the human experience. We're all in a body. We all like work through language, even though the language might affect you differently. There's things that are kind of universal. You see that a lot in dreams. You see people who have like their teeth falling out in some kind of like nervous, oral presentation kind of dream.
Or when you're having a fight, your punches all of a sudden feel way heavier and slower in dreams. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Yeah, you can't run because like if you're really adrenaline afraid, then it starts stimulating your body. You start feeling that you can't move because you can't move when you're dreaming. Your body's like chemically paralyzed.
Those were the worst fucking dreams.
You start feeling like you're in mud or something. Yeah, but people also like have flying dreams. And they're interpreted differently, which is really interesting. Like how, like, because you can't fly. Some people will flap their fucking arms like a bird. Other people will kind of like flex something like a muscle. Like you find a way to make it make sense, but you're having kind of like a similar base experience. And that's where, I mean, I hate to go full fucking scientific on it. It's not the be all end all. It's not the explanation to me, but it is a part of it, is that there's an interpretation involved. And you were describing all these things that instinctively scare us, these like tentacly, insecty, snaky things that like any fucking mammal are essentially just anticipating out of fear to stay alive, you know, in some deep instinctual way. And it's fucking like when I did the DMT, I think it was the same like substance.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. So I had a similar experience, but completely different vibe. I had like one thing, like I had this kind of like alternate body, or like this other way of seeing my body, and the other way of seeing the room. I was like in another place, but it was like this infinite swirling nonsense, like most psychedelic trips. And there was something coming out of or going into my stomach, and I was just like, maybe I'm dead. Maybe I'm dying. I remember getting so many puffs, and I started swallowing it, and I started burping up smoke, and I was like, I'm going to die. I'm literally going to die. And I just became okay with it. I was like, okay, I'm going to die. And that just made the whole trip way more like, okay, let's step back and see what happens kind of thing. Because this is the last thing you're ever going to experience. I was just like, okay with dying. Like, maybe I'll just like bleed into the DMT realm and like never come out. And then just, you know, I don't know. But I just remember popping out of it and then having all these things that I told you, which you remember better than I do because I was like in a fucking stupor.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I could picture the whole thing.
I know, you tell me some stuff sometimes. The only thing I really remember feeling is like the chaos, the cacophony of being like not me anymore. Like my consciousness dissolved into the entire universe, and it was exhausting. You know, like I didn't even feel exhausted because I couldn't understand anything. There was no point of reference. And then coming back, or like on the way back, there was this sense of relief. And I remember saying, it wants to be us. You know, like as if to say, we're trying to reach God and God's trying to reach us. And we're like bumping up in the hallway going like, oh, I was coming to you. Like, what? Why are you coming here? Like, I'm God. We're going this way, asshole. And you're like, no, God's better than us. We're going that way. And it's like, no. This is confusing and weird. Let's go into specificity. Let's go into individuality. Let's go into novelty. Let's not just be a swirling nonsense of everything. so that we can like experience stuff and like all that out of It Wants to Be Us.
I like that description, man.
Yeah, it's fucking mind blowing.
Yeah.
It was like it was so cool to have a trip that kind of just told me like, hey man, life's cool. Like do stuff here. Don't just fucking try to find these other realms. It's like the first time I really gave into the magic of reality. If I could be a little cheesy, like there's so much like the flat earth stuff, or like there's something in wanting to like find something new and wanting to kind of escape reality and to find like some better modality, when the truth is like there's so much going on already that that foundationally kind of needs to be mastered. How crazy is that?
And we still look outwards for like something completely intriguing and exciting when it's right in front of our faces.
You know what it is? Honestly, it's like a victim mentality. It's like hoping some messiah comes and does the thing for you. And that's why I love the plant medicines, because they're kind of like that, but like the real story is always the kingdom of heaven is within, kind of thing, Always. The Buddha said, we can all do this, it's always empowering the individual, and then there's all this distortion of like, oh yeah, no, I'm the son of God, you're all some fucking, you're just people, I don't know what you guys are, I'm the guy, do what I do, say what I do what I say, whatever the fucking, I'm losing my words now, but fuck, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just shrugging a lot now. I just feel like I'm on drugs because we've been talking about drugs. And we didn't even rap it today.
It's crazy. How do you feel?
Different.
Yeah.
I want to hear it. I want to hear the podcast and be like, okay, we had a different energy, I hope that's what happens, because I don't know. We're in it now.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we broke the tradition of the weekly rap session before podcast. I mean...
Yeah, I was late.
Usually... we explain rap in pretty much every podcast, but it's just 20-second crash course. It's Amazonian snuff, sacred tobacco that you shoot up each other's noses, one in each nostril, and it blasts you off right back to the center of your body, whatever the fuck that means to you.
It's really sobering. And I drank a bit of coffee, and I was even going to smoke some weed before I came here, just to see, like I keep saying, I want the rape and the weed to kind of duke it out.
I'm curious to see what that will do for you.
It'd be interesting to do a podcast like high also, because I'm going to be like maybe quieter, maybe like interjecting a little more methodically and less like ranting. And I got the gift of gab, it's a curse actually. Like I shouldn't say most of the things I say.
It just comes out though. It's great.
You seem to like it.
Yeah.
So I'll keep doing it.
So that's it, man. The rap, we broke the 3-week trend. Week 4, we didn't do it.
I'm down to do some after if you have time. Oh, yeah, it's true.
Maybe we could do a little bit. I mean, we started early too, so like we could. Yeah, we're pretty much at the timer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So let's like nutshell it then. Let's take the next like 5-10 minutes. So bad trips are just like a resurfacing of of human existential pain, essentially,
and things that you didn't deal with or you avoided.
And a lot of times, in my case, I think a lot of people these days have this problem. We're intellectualizing a lot of the darkness, of the light too. We're just throwing everything into folders and understanding them on paper, and then when we have to deal with them,
it's a big deal.
It's a shocker. And then you see it. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, but you see the wisdom or the grace in people who've like gone through horrible shit in their lives, and those are bad trips. Like I talk about Ramsey a lot as a point of reference, a mutual friend of ours. Like I mean, I don't want to blow up his spot. I don't think he's shy about it. I don't think he would mind me saying it, especially if it's helping other people. But like he had a girlfriend for a long time. They were together for like almost a decade or something, and they were pretty young, and it was like his high school sweetheart kind of thing. And he thought they were going to get married. She breaks up with him. Devastating. He thinks nothing can get worse, and a little while later, his best friend dies, and like you just Like, that's a bad trip. It's like, oh no, this could be bad. Oh, it's so much worse than you realize.
Was that around massage school? Because I remember he spoke about
a bit before.
Okay.
I mean, it defines a lot of his experience now. And he's such a wise person. He's so open, and he's so like chipper, and he makes such an effort to make everyone happy around it. Like, he has this perspective that, like, hey man, time is fucking not on our side, and I'm gonna start treating everybody like they could be dead tomorrow, including myself. And it's a balancing act. It doesn't change much, you know. But like they say, before enlightenment, you know, you mop the floor and you cook the food, you know. And after enlightenment, you mop the floor and you cook the food. So like he's still just a dude at the end of the day. I don't want to put him up on a pedestal, but you know, there's just, it's so weird to say, but there's so much value in pain. The suffering
growth,
is,
man.
Yeah.
You know, growing is painful. Think of when you're a kid, your teeth coming in fucking hurt.
And this is why I think there's like a logic to this entire universe being some kind of like simulation school thing, like on some crazy extra dimensional level, because you really can't grow without pain.
Yeah.
Like, explain to me how you do it.
You go to the gym, you do your training, the next day you're in fucking brutal pain, your muscle regrows stronger, and you're not in pain anymore until the next session.
It's totally fractal. It applies everywhere.
It's crazy.
But then, you know, Buddhism is clear that you don't have to suffer. You don't have to think the pain is out of place and then like have a double pain because you think you shouldn't be in pain. Like, that's just retarded. And yet we're all doing it all the time because of expectation.
Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
You know, you just add it to the fire.
And that leads into questioning society, because a lot of this stuff is just like pre-programmed bullshit, and it's expectations that are handed down. And that's why maybe psychedelics are illegal. And then you start getting into conspiracy theories, and everything just kind of gets all fucking connected. And then you're like, maybe I should stop doing drugs.
It's a great way to end it.
It's a horrible way to end it. Oh, fuck.
Sweet, brother.